All right, so day one just finished with Trump and Xi Jinping in China. There's a lot to cover. I'm going to give you guys the most interesting updates and also what's being shown at face value versus what's happening possibly behind the scenes. So let's get into it, talk about some updates. So I want to start with a Q, com, and a delta because this was very blatant. So the White House posted this 31-second clip of basically this whole fanfare of his arrival, the red carpet treatment, and just various other things. And it just sounds all nice. It's very professionally done. President Trump on Twitter actually retweeted this. And of course, as you know, deltas and comms for Q posts oftentimes relate to the duration of the video. And so this is post 31. Here it says, world stalemate. We have all the goods on everyone else. That's part of the reason why some things that tie back to foreign heads of state will remain classified. Not all. We are in one of the most critical times of our country. Trump and others are working to balance the we're doing well for America for the common person to endorse, while at the same time purify our government and remove the bad actors who are entrenched. There's so much string pulling and blackmail that we need to cut these off to truly gain the power granted to us by the patriots and hardworking people of this great country. And what's interesting is that this was actually posted at 12:58 p.m. Eastern Time. And that corresponds to post 12:58. Here, an Anon asks, when will we have Moab? And Q says, should we tell all the good people watching the day and time? Red carpet rollout? Think logically. The world is watching. Now, what does that mean except to say that the world is in a stalemate, that we have all the information on these bad actors. The Moab is coming, but we're not going to just tell you right off the bat and what the day and time is. And remember that the world is watching. But that's interesting because President Xi also said this in his opening remarks. Listen to what he says.
Let me say a few words first, and then I'd like to invite you, Mr. President, to deliver your opening remarks. President Trump, I'm very pleased to meet you in Beijing. Welcome back to China after 9 years. The whole world is watching our meeting. Currently, transformation not seen in a century is accelerating across the globe, and the international situation is fluid and turbulent. The world has
Now again, he addresses that transparently, telling people the world is watching. Now I'm reminded of post 192 where it says, why was Barack Obama shamed during trip to China, Saudi Arabia, and other locations? Because this was clearly different than when Obama came. And before Trump's first term, I think like 10 years ago, when Obama visited, he was actually snubbed. Watch this quick clip.
Now, US President Barack Obama's arrival in China for the G20 summit got off to a bumpy start as he didn't receive the red carpet treatment usually offered to world leaders. Oh Young has more.
Was it a carefully calculated snub or a simple mishap on the behalf of the Chinese? As President Obama arrived in the eastern Chinese city of Hangzhou on Saturday, no rolling staircase had been prepared for his exit from Air Force One. Instead, he had to make his way out from a little-used exit. There are also altercations between US and Chinese officials as Obama got off the plane and US reporters were told to move. A Chinese official was heard shouting, "This is our country, this is our airport." President Obama later downplayed the situation.
It can cause some friction.
Now here it says, why are China and Russia communist S/closed? Can you find an owl/Y there? Was this to prevent evil from entering? Was this to protect their children/people? And then again, the other video I mentioned how POTUS was hosted. It says, compare, think, fantasy land. Now, during the actual ceremony, when he was greeted outside the Great Hall of the People in Tiananmen Square here, there's a great fanfare of this whole thing. But in particular, he was walking by a group of very happy, dancing children as they were kind of walking through this whole parade. And then President Trump, in his opening remarks, immediately comments on the children.
Well, President Xi, I want to thank you very much. First of all, that was an honor like few have ever seen before. And I think I was particularly impressed by those children. They were happy. They were beautiful. The military is obvious. It couldn't be better, but those children were amazing and they represent so much. And I know they represent so much to you. You and I have known each other now for a long time. In fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president and president has had.
Now, many people are looking at this and saying, is there double meaning behind this? Because obviously it was about the parade, but also is it because about children being saved worldwide? Julie here says, nothing's by chance. President Trump is bringing world peace, historic and unprecedented. Now, the White House posted this because officially this was the joint statement of what happened. The statement says President Trump had a good meeting with President Xi of China. The two sides discussed ways to enhance economic cooperation between our two countries, including expanding market access for American businesses into China and increasing Chinese investment into our industries. Leaders from many of the United States' largest companies joined a portion of the meeting. The presidents also highlighted the need to build on progress in ending the flow of fentanyl precursors into the United States, as well as increasing Chinese purchases of American agricultural products. The two sides agreed that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open to support the free flow of energy. President Xi also made clear China's opposition to the militarization of the strait and any effort to charge a toll for its use, and he expressed interest in purchasing more American oil to reduce China's dependence on the strait in the future. Both countries agreed that Iran could never have a nuclear weapon. And again, as is being widely reported by mainstream news and other people on the outside, this is what is being discussed and talked about, the details of discussions, all of those talking points being summarized and extrapolated on through the news and some of the companies that are also there. And Alan here makes a good point. He says that one thing that stood out immediately from the Trump-Xi meeting is the tone. The opening remarks from both President Trump and Xi Jinping signaled de-escalation and normalization from the very beginning. No aggressive posturing, no hostile rhetoric, no Cold War atmosphere. Instead, the messaging was centered around stability, cooperation, trade, investment, and long-term economic relations. That matters because markets and corporations move heavily off signals, tone, and direction before deals are even finalized. And when you combine that with the level of corporate firepower in that room, you start understanding why investors, manufacturers, and global markets are paying such close attention to this summit. This feels less like traditional diplomacy and more like the opening phase of a major economic realignment. And one of the more major corporate developments here is that the United States has cleared Nvidia to sell advanced chips to 10 Chinese firms. And this is, I believe, the H200, which is one of the higher end chips. And if you remember, that was banned, and effectively market share for Nvidia in China dropped to zero after the United States required Nvidia to stop selling to them. And again, this could be a $50 billion market. So President Trump picked up CEO Jensen Huang in Alaska on the way to China, and the deal has been seemingly struck. So this is big updated news. Again, one of many other economic big powerhouse deals. And while all that is going on today, it was kind of crazy with regards to Representative Anna Paulina Luna mentioning that the CIA has 24 hours to return the documents to DNI Tulsi Gabbard's office, or else, she says, I will make a motion to issue a subpoena. These documents have been requested by Congress. So there's been sort of a lot of back and forth of CIA possibly seizing 40 boxes of JFK and MK Ultra files that were being processed by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, which is Tulsi Gabbard, for declassification. So again, this whole thread and just people reporting all sorts of things has been interesting to say the least. And this is, of course, her page. But very quickly, Clandestine has this to say: observe the top 3 things DNI Gabbard is investigating: treasonous conspiracy against Trump, election integrity, specifically mail-in ballots from Fulton County in 2020, COVID origins, and U.S. biolabs, specifically the 40-plus in Ukraine. All of these are connected. How? COVID was a man-made virus that was created with U.S. taxpayer dollars via CIA USAID Project Predict, and its release led to mass mail-in ballots in the 2020 election, which the Dems used to steal the election and overthrow Trump. COVID was the next phase of the treasonous coup to remove Trump after the Mueller investigation and impeachment attempts failed. COVID was a tool used by the deep state to create conditions for them to steal the election. It's all part of the same plot. Tulsi is telling us what she is doing with her actions. The entire case is being built, and they knew exactly where the trail ends. It's happening. And again, the timing of all this is very interesting, as Trump and many others are, of course, overseas doing other things, while domestically onshore, other things are going on. And this is what Melissa has to say, because he still has a visit, which he did, I believe, tonight, to the Temple of Heaven. The honors the Chinese give President Trump are heavenly. President Trump is about to become the first U.S. president in 51 years to visit China's Temple of Heaven. It is, quote, "it is a place of sacred ground where emperors used to pray for the prosperity of the nations." The only other president to visit there was President Gerald Ford in 1975. Built in 1420, this UNESCO World Heritage Site is nearly 4 times the size of the Forbidden City. Imperial families held ceremonies here to offer sacrifices to heaven and pray for a good harvest. And of course, from a Christian perspective, this is not something that we accept or even agree to, of course, from that religious or spiritual perspective. But the implication here is that China as a nation is giving everything, in some sense, to Trump. It's bigger and in some sense better than the first trip when he was shown the Forbidden City. But with this trip, and there's been some new footage that has been coming out, but basically he's out here being shown a lot of what is sacred and what is forbidden. So again, after a major closed door meeting, he went and saw all this, and then tomorrow is going to be another big plan. You can see he's personally being walked by President Xi through this site. So let's see what happens, because again, he has a full day tomorrow. He's going to be meeting with Xi again at 11:30 in the morning tomorrow, and just much more is happening behind the scenes, as we all know. So just wanted to give you guys this quick update. More to come, and you guys know I am listener support. If you guys want to support me, as I'm a small creator until things get better, would love it if you guys can partner with me financially. All the information is down below in the description. GiveSendGo.com/Chrisyoonyt. Also have PayPal, Zelle, Venmo. Love you guys. More to come. Talk to you guys very soon.